Have we achieved some form of nuclear benchmark today? I'm looking today at a member of House of Representatives and the roll call number vote number 151, HRES 409, providing for consideration of the bill H.R. 3233, National Commission to investigate the January 6th attack on the United States Capitol complex, and providing for consideration of the bill H.R. 3237, Emergency Security Supplemental to respond to January 6th Appropriations Act 2021 and for other purposes. I'm on the record as already saying that the state of Texas in 2019 passed HB 151, which had to do with compensation and the retirement system for teachers in Texas. The Metric 151 has been one that has been engaged for over the last 5 years in acts of terrorism, specifically coordinated for a form of hedging strategy associated with Citigroup operations involving Asia. This has been meted out since I have actively been witnessing, at least since there were announcements of protests in Hong Kong at the beginning of 2019. It involves hedging on use of actual chemical weapons and escalation 2 points up to and including acts of nuclear sabotage. So, apparently they have pegged the nuclear option at this point in time to a consideration of events that occurred on the January 6th of this year. Please, as I've already informed you, there are predecessor concerns related to January 6th, just as there are predecessor concerns related to the Metric 151. However, that is not the reason I am attempting to make this announcement right now. Why has nobody discussed the substantive matters in Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene's bill HRES 57, impeaching Joseph R. Biden, President of the United States, for abuse of power by enabling bribery and other high crimes and misdemeanors? And she is the sponsor, and thus far there are no co-sponsors listed. How much of the allegations concerning Representative Greene are connected specifically to her proposal of this specific resolution? I will let you know, as you're well aware, I'm sure, this is not unprecedented. How many House resolutions were requesting or invoking the impeachment of Donald Trump during the last presidential term? Not only that, how many bills were requesting things other than direct and literal impeachment, but indicating that the other matters concerning that bill were to be acknowledged in consideration of efforts to impeach Donald Trump at that time? Civil rights bills, emergency appropriations bills, as if to say, the bill's about this, but in consideration of either causal factors or factors related to the means by which we intend to accomplish the elements of this bill. Understand our primary reference point is the allegations that are now ongoing and pending concerning the conduct and or the status of the individual that is now identified as the president. I say the individual because the office of the president is about more than the individual who serves in the office at the time. So if you have an individual that's actually committing crime under the auspices of performing as president, performing, by the way, then that impacts the entire country, that impacts the entire office of the presidency, and that impacts everybody else, which presumably is everybody in the chain of command up to and including members of the United States military, that would be put in a position to have to engage in commands or orders or operate under the authority of someone engaged in crime. Has anybody actually responded to the substantive charges? I will say that in my initial perusal, I personally have contacted a senior member of the Senate and requested they specifically investigate things that are being referenced herein. I did this in the summer of 2019. If I'm correct, Representative Taylor Greene had not been elected. I am not allowed, it seems, to be put into some position where the eligibility for me to actually formally run for Congress has been allowed. However, there has been a citizen in the United States following matters connected to this that do not directly acknowledge the request for investigation and prosecution, but bring up things that in the meantime have been proven to confirm the original allegations. Now, if, as I suspect, the campaigning activities of Representative Taylor Greene were connected to long-term acts of securities fraud that visited political reprisal on opposition of Democratic presidential candidates in the 2008 election season, and during the 2020 election season, it became eligible that those loans that had been violations of the 13th and 14th Amendments had somehow termed out, and so that credit was available for swapping to potentially be applied to the electoral campaign of somebody running for office in 2020, including as a freshman, and that had a even more contrary or had a contrary political perspective than the people that originally were visited with reprisal on. Those are considerations that need to be taken into account. But at the same time, Congress and the Senate were well aware before the 2020 campaign that these activities had been going on. My understanding is, on some level, part of what has been obscured as part of the abuse concerning the alleged investigation into the former Secretary of State's performance in abuse of office by the Department of Justice, as well as the alleged congressional proceeding regarding investigations of acts of what they call spying, without actually citing the specific laws being broken. When you call someone a spy, are they engaged in acts of espionage? Are they engaged in patent infringement? Are they in default on loans that have been taken out on their human capital? Are they in a situation where they're a fugitive of the law because a warrant has been issued for their arrest and they refused to show up to court? You have not actually elucidated what justified spending the entire presidential term of Donald Trump refusing to actually acknowledge the crimes of the office of the president at the time he swore in. The same has been happening here. This has created a situation where, as of today, June 16, 2021, we still have not addressed the crimes of the office of the president, including who at this point in time actually operates, and I say operates, as the president. So I am letting you know that so far from what I'm seeing, the first thing I saw today on the information available to the American people about what Congress and the Senate is doing is a reference to this bill. I am not seeing anything about this bill that is unreasonable. I am not seeing anything about this this resolution that's unreasonable. I am not seeing anything about this resolution that isn't comparable to other resolutions that were allowed to be submitted without the comparable kind of uproar during the term of Donald Trump, or even resolutions that were comparable to this submitted during the term of Barack Obama, as well as information with charges like this that were part of filings sent to the Supreme Court of the United States requesting, among other things, a consideration for quo warranto in allegations around the actual authority of the President of the United States. And that brings up another consideration, which is that Joseph Biden was the vice president under Barack Obama. He was the president of the Senate. What are we doing about JASTA? What role does JASTA play in what's going on right now in terms of identifying who is actually a survivor or a victim of terrorism? What is allowed to be acknowledged as terrorism and what is intentionally and fraudulently misrepresented as something else? Now, if we're going to get to the bottom of this, we're going to have to talk about both the behavior of the president as well as the behavior of members of the Senate and Congress. It's not acceptable to try to pin this on an individual and allow for them to be liquidated instead of actually addressing the substantive matters at hand. How many other people are anticipated to be made expendable as a form of bribery for who or whatever it is that actually understands there is just cause for bringing high charges, including capital charges, against members of Congress and the House of the executive branch, purporting to be representing the people of the United States. This is a very significant matter. This bill right here, or this proposal right here, everything in here is completely sensible and is not unlike anything that has been discussed before. Why is this not actually a topic of consideration at this time in a meaningful manner, at least equivalent or comparable to what the entirety of the American people were subjected to during the last 4 years, which also provided a cover up for what occurred in the 8 years before that?